Hello again. So I apologize if I had to cut the video. Um, now that I've got access to my laptop to the side here, I can answer some of your emailed questions first. So if you just tuned in, I don't know why. Okay, my image is over there, but my camera's over here. It's gonna be a little bit offset. Sorry. So I was on my phone earlier on the way, so I wasn't able to get access to my laptop. But now I do, so now I can answer some of your emailed questions. So I got one from Maddie. Sorry, Maddie, I was by the end of Friday, I didn't get around to uploading an extra video clip for those who were away at rhythmic gymnastics. And there's also people sick yesterday as well. So we covered some stuff in maths in 7D and in 7K. And I will try my best to get some video resources out sometime this afternoon so that you guys can catch up. But basically what we did is that we started chapter 10D, which is about solving equations algebraically, which is a relatively new approach for most students. So I can't just stick up notes and then expect you guys to do it properly. The other bit is we also did another session on maths PSMT, which together today we went over the section that says evaluate and verify, and so I'll stick up some notes about that. But basically, that's where you're sort of checking your answer, checking your budget, checking your floor plan, and sort of making some judgment calls about that. And if something isn't quite right, then you start to talk about why, and then you start to shape what you will do to try and fix it. So that hopefully answers Maddie's question. I've got a response from Rachel. She says the chat is disabled. So Rachel, if that's the case, then just drop an email with the questions. I still have my laptop open, so you can watch that. I did think I saw some live stream questions from earlier last week. Let me have a look. So I got, let's see, this was about force. And then 9th of June. Okay. So I got an email from Lachlan, and this was like a week ago. Where have I stuck a marker? I had a pen somewhere. Oh dear. Where have I lost it? I thought I had a Sharpie marker somewhere. Maybe it fell away somewhere. Goodness. This isn't good. Sorry, folks. I bet the moment I stand up, I find it. Hang on. Who would have thought I'd be sitting on it? Okay, so this is nothing to do with the assignment, but he's asking how to convert a fraction into a percentage. So if I've got 5 over 2, then what I can do is, so you got a few approaches, okay? One works every time, but sometimes ends up being more effort or more lines of working than is required. The other options are there if you are given a specifically easy form of fraction. So here I've got a denominator of 2, and that denominator there, I can easily scale that up to 100. So if I can multiply this by something to get 100, and I do the same to the top, then I basically turn into a percentage. So 2 times what gives me 100? Well, I can just times top and bottom by 50. Okay, so I should get 100, 5 times 50, should get 250. So, and we know that anything over 100, this is just going to be the answer in percentage. So the answer is 250%. Okay, so that's the one if you're given something nice and easy. Another option is if you're not given something nice and easy. So if I got 5 over 7. So this one here, it's not easy, it's not nice. Hey Ryan, thanks for dropping in. If you don't have a nice fraction, then the technique that works all the time is to multiply it by 100 over 1. Okay, so I'm not going to do this on the live stream because what happens next is what you've done before. But basically, you're going to multiply your numerators together, so you should have an answer of 500. And then you multiply your bottom, which is 7. So 500 divided by 7 will give you your answer in percentage. Now, how do you solve that? Well, you would use short division to do that, which I think, or the manual way of calculating division. Let me just see if I missed any further questions in this chat feed. Let me see if I can scroll up a little bit. Josh asks, what are the design restrictions? Design restrictions are going to be things like average bedroom, your $5,000 budget, things like that, what the room is for, okay? Some of those are your restrictions, okay? So if you're choosing to make a bedroom design for a baby's room, then that's going to have some restrictions. You're not going to stick in certain things in there that the child might, I don't know, swallow or something, or fall over. That's a restriction. Willie says, the PSMT 20% of our overall semester mark. To be honest, that was something that Mrs. Appleton set into place before me. So I would imagine most information about how much this assignment is weighted, I think a lot of information would be existing on Firefly already. So I think if you go to Firefly, Year 7 Mathematics, and then in there, you should find one of the sort of sub pages all about like how things are graded or general information. And I would highly suggest you go there. I think Miss Appleton would have sort of laid out quite clearly how everything adds together in terms of how much your assignment is worth. Okay, so Ryan asks, formulas used on page 2. Well, page 2, formulas is going to be things like your spreadsheet, your when you calculate. So if you've seen the video, which I made for you guys earlier in the week about doing Excel spreadsheets, you basically have your quantity multiplied by your price gives you the cost, okay? So you're basically going to present that information to me where you've applied it on the spreadsheet. Otherwise, it looks, from a teacher's point of view, what we want to see is that you've actually used Microsoft Excel using formulas, okay? There is a temptation for students to just use a handheld calculator and just stick the numbers into the spreadsheet, which is absolutely no different from just putting numbers onto a piece of paper or into a Microsoft Word document. And that's not a skill, that's not a mathematical skill, that's just you just doing things the hard way, doing things the long way or things like that. So we want to see that you are actually using Microsoft Excel in the way that Microsoft Excel gives you benefits, which is to calculate things for you automatically. But you have to program it or tell it instructions. And the way you tell it instructions is that you do that formula thing. So if you recall in the video, when you have a cell and you click on it and then you type in equals and then you put in, I don't know, like A2 multiplied by C, 11, for example. Does that even come across? It looks like a D. Okay. That sort of thing is what we would love to see. Okay, because if we can see that presented on your assignment, we can tell that you have calculated things correctly and that you are using Microsoft Excel. You've actually learned the skill of using Microsoft Excel. But obviously this here is a bit of jargon. It's the way Excel, this is the A column, the second row. This is the C column and row 11. So this can look a little bit strange. So another approach is that for your printed out Excel spreadsheet, you could just draw an arrow, okay, and you write down the formula you use, which is like quantity multiplied by price, okay? Sorry about my handwriting, I'm trying to write at an angle, it's not exactly the greatest. Okay, so that answers that question there. I'm just going to go back to the emails because I didn't notice I had many, but I did hear my computer sort of chime because somebody must have sent an email through. So let me just check that. Because I did promise to do emails first. Let's see. All right. What does coefficient mean? A coefficient. So if I've got okay. So in algebra, we have our letters, okay, which we refer to as pronumerals. So I should look at the camera. So we have pronumerals, which are the letters, so A, B, C, all the way through to Z. The number in front of a letter is referred to the coefficient, okay? So this is 2 times the value here. So I hope that answers your question about what coefficient is. Last one for Lachlan is how to divide decimal places by decimal places. Oh, I see. So how do you divide a decimal by another decimal? So let's do 0.14 divided by 0. I don't know, 36. Okay, let's try this problem here. Actually, I'm probably not going to do it that one. I'll do it like this. So this one here, you know what? I might be able to do it. Let me just put it back the way it was. I realize that it's still possible. So the trick is that you need to, a lot of maths is just take what you've got and swap it for something that's easy to work with, but it's still the same question. Okay, so that is like your biggest technique trick for everything. If you can remember different ways of switching something out to something else identical, you would be a genius at maths. So here, the trick that I'm going to use is that division is the same thing as fraction. So let me just rearrange this into a fraction. So now I'm here. Now we know that I can simplify top and bottom by dividing by a common factor, or I can scale up the whole fraction to a common multiple, okay? So what if I double top and bottom? It's still the same fraction? What if I tripled it, quadrupled it? You know what? What if I times the top and bottom by 10? Well, effectively, I can move the decimal place across. So I can move the decimal place over. If I multiply it again, I can get rid of this sort of 0 point. I can remove it entirely. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 100 to remove the decimal entirely. So now my problem is this. This is identical to this answer, which is still identical to this answer. And you can see where I'm going. I've just changed this format into something I know how I can do. Is that if I can simplify this such that my denominator is a single number, then I can put it through short division, and then you can solve it. So maybe I can divide top and bottom by 2. 36 divided by 2 should give me 15 plus 3 should be, I don't know, 18. Okay, so it looks like I can't go much further than that. Ideally, you would want to have like a single digit number here. That way you can put a single digit in your short division. Okay, so this is the same thing as this. So how many times does 18 fit inside of 7? It can't be done, so I bring out a 0, 0.0. So now I have to go, does 18 fit within 70? And you put your answer up here. And you keep going with the decimal places. All right, that seems to be all the email questions that I have found. Let's come back to the chat feed because I think some of you have dropped in some new questions for me. And I've lost my pen lid. Okay, so thanks, Ryan. I hope I answered your question about the formulas used like with this. Josh would say, what are some negatives about the design? Well, I don't want to answer that question because you'll just copy what I say. But think about the purpose of your room. Okay, so some students have chosen to make the bedroom for a child. Some people have chosen to make their bedroom for a guest room. Some people have made it to be a competition bedroom to win, the block. Some people just made their own bedroom. So if that's your chosen priority for that space, then have a look of what you've done with that space. And is there anything in there that's, kind of doesn't really work or doesn't really measure up to what your priority was or doesn't really fit your vision, but you had to use it perhaps because of the budget constraints, or you had to use this even though you really wanted a bigger desk, you know, you had to use this because there's no room for the desk that you wanted, or there was no money left for that budget for that desk that you wanted. So that could be a negative. The video isn't working for me. So Rachel, can you clarify which video? I'm not sure which one you're referring to, sweetie. Sorry. Um, Greeny has retracted his message. Okay. Alice asks, how much % is this out of outgrade? So I answered this earlier in the video clip just now. If you go to Firefly, Year 7 Mathematics, you look, there should be a page that Miss Appleton wrote at the beginning of the year, which has the whole layout of simple familiar, complex familiar, and how each exam is weighted and tallied together. So I believe she's done that, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but she definitely wrote some documentation out there to help you guys out. So I have to refer you to the best, which would be Miss Appleton. Do we have any other questions, folks? Because I think we're approaching the half-an-hour mark. And as you can tell, I'm still not fully recovered yet. But the good news is I do have some coffee. And I hope the live stream is still sort of working out. I realize I might be streaming over my home network, which doesn't exactly have great upload bandwidth. So I'll give it maybe a couple more minutes to see if you guys have any questions left. If no, then I think we might call it a day. Or at least I will. And I'll try and get onto my other things, my to-dos for this weekend. So I hope to make a video clip for those who are away sick on Friday in my classes, and also the assignment-related material about evaluating and verification. Sorry, verify. Well, I guess while I'm waiting, I could actually show you what I'm actually writing in. So this little thing here, it's actually one of my little science cat books. So I think I referred to it in class the other day that, yeah, I really like chemistry cats, so I put it up on Redbubble so I could buy one. So I bought two. I gave one of them away. I had a guest over, and the little kid was so bored, so I said, like, look, take this. Here's some coloring and markers, and you can just keep the book. But this one here is the one with grid paper. I think it's pretty nice. It doesn't bleed, which is nice. Bleed for me, I hate using the pages. Obviously, there's a bit of bleed now because I'm using a Sharpie, so that always bleeds through paper. But if you're using any other pen, so far it's been quite nice. Paper's good quality. Yeah. All right, I had a question just now. Another one from Alice. I may have already asked this, but could you explain the introduction of the paragraph? And if we should write things that didn't work with our design and the reasoning. Okay, the introduction. When you type out your introduction, look, to be honest, the introduction paragraph is not that critical. It's not that complicated. So if you're stressing about writing your introduction paragraph, I would try and say, just relax a bit. It's just there to get your side. It's just a little bit of a teaser. Think of it like a movie trailer. It doesn't really convey a lot. It's mostly there to sort of, pique your interest and sort of let you know roughly what you're into, like where it's a sci-fi film. It's got drama. It's got your favorite actors. It's got cats, so you introduce in a world where we have to design a bedroom, we were given $5,000 budget to make a certain bedroom design, etc., etc. And you would say, okay, and this report's going to cover the process that was taken to try and solve it, with the vision of designing the bedroom for a newborn baby, for example. and this project will involve budgeting through using a Excel spreadsheet, um, checking to see if things fit the space using calculations and illustrations of a floor plan, and that's pretty much just about it. So that's what I would say about the introduction. Your second bit, Alice, there mentions, should we write things that didn't work with our design and reasoning? Write that in your solve paragraph. So if you're looking on page 3 and it says introduction, considerations, and then I think it's called solving or something like that, problem solving perhaps. The very last bullet point says discuss changes made to your design. That's when you say that. Okay, things that didn't work, and therefore you write about that. You write about that then. Don't show your hand in the first paragraph of your report, if that makes sense. So don't sort of reveal the answer in the first paragraph of your report. Okay. Yeah. Also try and express your writing for the introduction. So try and write it in such a way that you're writing it as if you haven't yet solved the problem. Okay? So write it as though you're just about to start, and this is the vision, this is the problem, and this is how we're going to go about solving it. Don't say, this is how I solved it, this is how I did it, in the first paragraph, if that makes sense. Don't show your hand. I think that reference comes from like poker. Don't show your hand too early, I think is don't reveal what cards you've got. Josh asks, is there a word limit? As far as I know, no. But in terms of giving you a sense of size, I would expect your introduction paragraph to be quite short. So it could be, I don't know, 2 or 3 sentences. Your considerations would be another paragraph, and that's going to be a few bullet points. And those bullet points will be based upon the information that you guys decided over the weekend that I assigned to 7D and to 7K on the first PSMT lesson, where you said, what bedroom, who's it for, what size. You would have those in a dot point list in your consideration paragraph. Then after that, you would have your solve paragraph. Now, solve, I would expect multiple paragraphs, and that's going to be as many paragraphs as you feel that you need to tell the story of how you solved it. Okay, so tell me the story of the shopping experience. Okay, you see, so once you've figured things out, okay, the bedroom is this size. Okay, tell me the story. Like, how did you come to that number? Why that specific number? And why does that sort of why did you decide to go with that? And the room itself, okay, so you decided the room already has paint on the walls, and it already has these things in there. Okay, so tell me the story. How did you come to that decision? Why? So that's sort of the telling of the story, and that's in the solve part. Then once you've sort of got those in place, I then want to hear the story about when you went shopping for items. What sort of tell me the story. Like, first I was looking to, I want to get like a computer desk because computer gaming is something that means a lot to me, and I really want this bedroom to sort of accentuate the gaming experience or something like that. And so I went searching in, umart.com, and maybe I went to like IKEA to get like a cool, like, modern looking desk, maybe, or maybe you went for like secondhand, or maybe you decided to buy one of those, cool rustic, wooden tables or something like that. And you really like that vibe of, not too clean, not too crisp, whatever. So a little bit of the story of your shopping and how you made those choices. And then you're making your budget and how much it came to. Then you tell a story of, okay, the floor plan. So here's the floor plan. The bedroom goes here. Blah 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 blah. The scale factor that was used, well, it's 1:2. Sorry about that. I'm still recovering from eating some McDonald's on the way home. I used a scale factor of 2 millimeters represents 4,000 kilometers. Okay, tell me the story. Like, how did you get to that number? Why did you go with that number? And the mathematics that you use to discover or to arrive at that number. Why was it a good choice? Why is it a good fit for your room and your design and your piece of paper? That's where you sort of bring in your reasoning. So I hope that helps you, Josh, to understand sort of how much writing there would be involved. So you might make perhaps in the solve paragraph, maybe a way to sort of break it down. So you might have like paragraph story on this item, a paragraph story about this item. Okay, so paragraph story about the average size bedroom. Okay, a paragraph story about what's the bedroom for, and so on, and see how you go. And if it still ends up being like, if it looks really long, like longer than anything you've ever written for year 7, then you might think about ways that you might be able to bring some of those paragraphs together and blend them into one paragraph, so that you can sort of neaten it up, could make it more concise. Okay, Alice says processing. Can you clarify what you mean by processing? Because I don't know where you're at. Greenie asks, how can you show formulas on Excel? Like this. I think if you scroll earlier in the video, oh, sorry. If you scroll earlier in this video stream, so this is, we're looking at part 2 video stream, I actually walk you through this, okay? I hope that helps you. You could just use a pen on top of your printed screenshot. Alice asks again, what does considerations about what you would do versus what tradespeople do? Oh, yes. So, for example, let's talk about painting the walls, okay? Now, that is something that you could choose to do yourself. So you could just buy the materials and the equipment, so a paint roller, whatever, and do it yourself. And you could do that for yourself to save money, right? Because depending on the paint job, some things can be more straightforward. However, some people are like, you know what, painting's just not for me. I don't want to do manual labor. I don't like the prospect of being covered from head to toe in speckles of paint and ruining my glasses. Experience. So maybe because I had a student who said I'd rather just hire a painter to do it for me. So that's a tradesperson. Another thing might be electrical. So maybe you might even consider, like, do you want to put some really cool lighting up in your ceiling? RGB, or I don't know what it is that you want. Maybe you want to have more outlets, power sockets around your walls, because maybe you have a lot of things to plug in and you maybe don't want cables everywhere. But maybe your room only starts with one power socket. So can you install new outlets yourself? No, no, you can't. That is illegal, I'm told, in Australia especially. Americans apparently can, but in Australia, I think it's to do with our voltage. I think with Americans, their voltage supply is 110 volts. And because the voltage is lower, I think it's a little less dangerous for them to work with it themselves. But in Australia, it's 220 up to 240 volts, which is twice as much voltage. Therefore, it can spark, I would imagine, just thinking scientifically, from my limited knowledge on electrical circuits, is that higher voltage means that it has a high potential to spark through the air. And so if you're doing it yourself, you could easily die, hurt yourself. But so if you want to install new wall outlets, you would have to pay for a tradesperson. You want to do tiles. Maybe you want to put the floor in yourself. Is that something you'll do yourself, or will you hire somebody to do it for you? Maybe you come from a family who are absolutely terrible at doing anything house renovation. And so maybe you go like, it's not really feasible for me or my family to sort of do the painting or do the flooring because we're all kind of rubbish. And maybe your family is into something else. That's not their specialty. Okay. So you might choose that you have to pay for somebody else to do it for you. Or maybe your family is like a lot of your family have experience doing things themselves. Maybe your dad's a carpenter, or your grandfather, or grandparents, or maybe mum's a painter or something like that, and they could help you. They could help you out. So you might decide in that case, it makes sense to do that part yourself. Is process the same as solve? Process. Sorry, Alice, can you still, like, can you put your question in a full like paragraph slash question? Because when you say process same as solve, I don't know what you mean by process. I don't know what you mean by solve. From where exactly? Morris asks, what's your job? What do you mean? My job? What do you mean our job? I don't know what you mean, man. Hey Hugo, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. I miss having you in my class. Hope you're doing well in chemistry. Grew up, you said. Come on, Morris. You gotta be nice. All right, I'm gonna put you in timeout. That's not nice. All right. Look, I think it's almost an hour now, so I think I might call it a day and move on. Thank you very much for coming around, and I hope this opportunity to ask questions has helped you out. I might just do one last check for emails. Oh yes, Alice finally put it into a paragraph. Let me just check emails once more to see if I receive anything through there. So far, nothing. All right, I'll come to Alice, and maybe this will be the last question. Under report headings, it has categories: introduction, considerations, process. Oh yes, process is solving. Okay, sorry, sweetie. So process would be paragraph or sort of section 3 of your report, which should be things that you like. How did you decide upon? Tell me the story of how you decided upon the size of the bedroom. Tell me the story of how you decided what the bedroom is going to be for. You know, guest bedroom, gaming room, reading room, whatever it's going to be. How you decided to furnish it. How did you calculate your budget, and so on. All right. Back to yeah. All right. So thank you everybody. I've got to go. My wife is calling. So if you have any further questions, please ask your teachers. A lot of them are there to help you with questions, and there's also math tutoring after school Tuesday. I think Tuesday week A. I've forgotten. It's either going to be in MSN 1, which is the middle school area, or it'll be in DOLA 2, DO2. So depending if it's week A or week B, I don't know which one's which, but those are the 2 rooms after school. You can ask for help from the teachers who run those sessions. Also, there's Mr. Bygraves who offers his time on Wednesday lunchtimes in MSN 1. So if you still need further help and further questions about the assignment, go see him then as well. And of course, us math teachers that you have. All right, see everybody. Thank you very much for coming by and being relatively civil.